Hello there. Well, I got a question from Colorado Springs. It's just a general question, and there are a number of questions that follow up from this general question. And this opens up kind of a big topic. And so I'm not absolutely certain what the best approach might be in order to address this topic. So I'm going and these questions. And so I'm going to try and talk about the overall issue, the overall question at hand. And then I suppose I could do several videos that are follow ups to this particular question and try to break things up in this way. And well, we'll just kind of see how it goes. All right. And so the question, the general question that I have presented here is a question about the global power structure, all right, and all the things that would kind of be discussed or talked about as part of the global power structure. I'm gonna just call it that. So if you have any questions for me about the global power structure, go ahead and ask, and I'll give you some ideas that might help you understand and also navigate what you may see taking place in the world that you're a part of. All right. Now, why would I even be asked, right? I mean, why would you bother asking me? What do I know, right? You can start with that. I'm not going to tell you the details with regards to how I would be useful, in asking questions like this. At this time, I'm just going to say that, yes, I have done work with some of the people involved in the global power structure. And so there are some things that I do know. There are a lot of things that I obviously don't know. But I can probably give you a different perspective or a different interpretation of what you see happening in the world that you're a part of that you may not necessarily expect. And so if you like some unexpected answers to some of the questions that you might have, I think I might be the person to do that for you. All right. So the first thing I'll address is the question of, does a global power structure really exist? And I'm going to answer that by saying, well, it depends on your point of view. Okay. And it depends on the people you're talking about. It can really depend. But I will say that overall, there does not appear to be a well-organized global power structure. All right? What we have is we have something that looks more like a global cooperative. Okay, that's been going on for forever, it seems. A global cooperative in the different power structures that exist throughout the world. Now, these cooperatives or these cooperations, these agreements that different groups of people will make, they change over time. And who may be allied with one person, well, they may change their alliances with somebody else later. There may be defaults on agreements. So to answer the question, does there exist a global power structure? Well, there kind of does. However, it's probably better described as a cooperative. All right. One of the ways that you can appreciate this is to realize that there are a lot of decisions to be made. We have decisions to make about our own lives personally. We may find ourselves involved in decisions with regards to our families, or maybe with our employers, or if we have our own businesses, then there's definitely a lot of decisions to be made. If we're a part of a local government structure, then there are decisions to be made there. A statewide, countrywide government structure, no matter who you're a part of or who you are working with, there are going to be a lot of decisions that have to be made. All right. Now, there are so many decisions that have to be made. There are so many of them that you can never have a single power structure that makes all of the decisions. There are just simply too many to make. And so it is necessary, and it will always be structured this way, it's necessary for there to be many different power structures, and to what degree they can cooperate with one another. Well, it really just depends on what the interdependencies might be, either because people want these interdependencies or because these interdependencies just exist just because. All right? So that's the way to look at this. Okay, now these global power structures that people talk about, there are names that exist for these in the common age that I have lived in. I think that the most popular phrase that has been used would be called the New World Order, for example, which is just a phrase that describes a global organization or a global cooperative or a common power structure of some kind. But it's not necessarily as influential as you might think it is. All right, it just may not be that way. Now, I spent some time working in the world of international banking. All right, and there are several different cooperatives or what we could call banking cartels. To give you a little bit of a definition, you can think of a mafia as just simply a group of people or families or private organizations that have assembled together for the purpose of common interest. And some of these activities or decisions that people are involved in may result in activities that are illegal, that are against the law, which is kind of what people usually think of when the word mafia is used. But it doesn't necessarily have to be activities that are violating the law. And they can still function as an organized effort that we would perhaps classify as a mafia. When you have a government that is a partner in the mafia, well, then you have a cartel, all right? And those are the definitions that I use that I'm accustomed to from people. And there are banking cartels, which are private groups of individuals or families who've made agreements, and they have tremendous amount of influence and resources. But because they cooperate with governments, or they have governments as partners, then they're considered to be cartels. Now, I worked for one of them. It was a group of Jewish families, all right, just so happened to be the case. And it was about 300 Jewish families, approximately 400, from what I understand. And they thought they were highly influential. But they told me, as I was being trained by them, and this was a long time ago now, when I was being trained to do work, they explained to me that they knew that they were not the largest banking cartel in the world. They were the second, from their point of view, they were the second largest banking cartel in the world. The largest banking cartel in the world was the Catholic Church, And so they have tremendous influence, and they have a place in the global power structure, just like these Jewish families had a place in the global power structure. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they all cooperate as much as people might want to think that they do. Okay, another thing to keep in mind, and this is just a general answer, just to kind of open the conversation and to maybe record a lot of videos that splinter off of this. Another thing to keep in mind is that when you look at these different groups that believe that they are significant, that they have a lot of power and a lot of influence in the global power structure, most of them believe that they are important, not because of their ability to contribute to life and to the world, but because they have enough control that they can cause disruptions in the world. All right? And this is another way that you can kind of divide up the different groups of people or cooperatives that exist, is that there are some that, yeah, they do provide a constructive service in some ways. But there are many who assert this belief that they are powerful and they are influential because of their ability to cause destruction. Okay? So those are some things to consider, and I will pause on the topic here and just kind of leave it open-ended and call this just an introduction to the global power structure videos and questions related to it. All right, thanks.